Well, Matt, I'm surprised at how much you would spend on a Ninja Turtle skin or an in-game character. $90, sir. I mean, I know you're kind of like a frugal guy and you save it for things that really matter. I just wasn't expecting it to be a Call of Duty Ninja Turtle skin.
Well, it's nostalgia, right? Like back, I have photos of when I was a kid where I was in Power Ranger outfit and Ninja Turtles was a close second. So, I mean, I got to live my life.
Yeah, if COD launches the Power Ranger skin, they could charge you $200 for that one.
Easy 200.
Yeah. So do you think $90 is asking too much for a skin in Call of Duty? I mean,
well, apparently not, because according to you, I bought it already. So no.
I mean, you could buy it and still be like, this is outrageous.
This is outrageous. Here's my money, but I'm angry about it.
Yeah, I've definitely bought things like that before where I'm like, I want this and they know I want it and they're charging way too much. This is more than it's worth, but I bought it. Dang it. Mm-hmm. And then you just feel like a fool.
Why is it? What does it come with? The $90? What does the $90 get you? Is it a single skin?
So I think you need to like $10 to get some pass or something. I don't know what it is. And then from in that, then you can spend another $80 to get like the Ninja Turtle skins. I don't know.
Oh, so you get all of them.
I don't know, actually. I don't know.
Got to do some research on these.
I should read up on it more. It just seemed insane and people were upset about it. And I don't know if it's just gamer rage or if it really is like $80 for a single skin.
Well, it looks like it gives you all of them.
All of them?
So that would make more sense for why. Because, like, if it was an individual skin.
I mean, but what do? They just changed the headband color, right?
Yeah, it's I agree. It's a skin. It shouldn't be $80. All the skins are overpriced, in my opinion, from like across the board. Yeah. But I get it compared to like what their other stuff is.
I guess you get to do that when you just have a game that is like that successful, right? I mean, Counter-Strike people are dropping thousands for weapon skins now, you know?
Yeah. And so it looks like you get stuff like a katana, you get their weapons and things. So it's like a bundle.
Yeah. I did like their Gundam skin. Like that was one of those things where I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. I got to buy it. Oh, I'm a Gundam. You know,
what's funny is it's Call of Duty. Like it's Call of Duty. Now I know the franchise has never really been forever now. Hardcore, awesome. Oh man, you have. Oh, and then I got that in the background too.
We got a chair back here, man.
You got a chair.
I added to the set.
Yeah, the background. I didn't even notice. But yeah, it's the fact that like it's Call of Duty, and it's just clown simulator now.
It's gone full Fortnite mode. Basically, they use the Fortnite
crossovers
blueprint, and it's just Fortnite now, but with like a tactical layer under it.
Tactical.
Yeah, I mean they're practically the same games now. So you get the Nicki Minaj skin in Call of Duty. You get it. They probably wouldn't do that one in Fortnite, but maybe they would. Who knows?
I mean, they probably would, just maybe not the way they did in Call of Duty.
Yeah. Well, they've been licensing the heck out of different IPs and brands and all that stuff, and
all just it's all just cross-plat promotion. It's just they like they get money out of it because it's advertisement and it's just money exchanging hands. So they're like, of course they're going to do it.
Yeah. Well, and so speaking of licensing characters and stuff like that, Marvel Rivals. I was reading up more on that story that we talked about last week. There's been new info. Basically, it seems like NetEase's plan. So the story last week was how NetEase fired a U.S. studio that helped build Marvel Rivals, basically. And people were like, the game's hugely successful. Why are you firing the people? It was only 6 people, so it's not a huge amount. I mean, it's still people lost their jobs, but
I thought it was more than that. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't the closure of like a major thing, but reading more into the story and more investigation, apparently the NetEase plans to divest from many of their overseas studios, basically following just a general trend to cut costs and do all this other stuff, which led into another rabbit hole story that I went down, which was like game industry is like getting hit hard right now globally, and also in the US things are really hard because the cost of development over here is higher than it is elsewhere. So certain countries are really getting hammered. It's good for growth in other places, but I mean, it sucks when it's your country and you're like, oh, cost of living's pretty high here, which means any desk job is going to cost more per employee than a country where the cost of living is lower. That sucks. So it's pretty interesting. I've been noticing that there's just being tied into the industry more. What there'll be like a company that's based in the UK or something, and they'll be like, oh, we'll do all the modeling for your project. And then you're chatting with a dude, and then he's like a creative lead.
He outsources it to someone else.
Well, he controls the team, but the team's in like India. So he's like built this team and they're all highly skilled and trained, but and then he handles all of the communication and the logistics and the marketing and whatever. It's like, okay, so the studio still exists in the UK, but it's like all the work's being done overseas. So that's really common now too. I'm seeing tons of that stuff.
Believe it.
Yeah. Oh, a funny thing that came out of this NetEase report, though, is that the CEO almost canceled Marvel Rivals because he didn't want to pay the licensing fees for the characters. Yeah, it was like, this is dumb. We can make our own characters or whatever. You could have had the next Concord.
I'm sure I'm assuming
Yeah.
it's very expensive, like incredibly expensive to have their characters and everything. But I mean, I can only imagine that they've absolutely killed it. So
yeah,
it was a worthy investment.
They keep adding tons of characters, right? So I assume the licensing fees are not prohibitively expensive.
It also makes it a lot easier for their pipeline too, because coming up with a brand new character that is unique and has good design and not only visually, but the abilities of it, and it has a background that people can fall in love with quickly, that is very difficult.
Yeah, for sure. People don't associate the proper amount of time with creating brand new characters and abilities and ideas. They're like, it's a lot. And then you go, okay, well, here's Iron Man as a template. You're like, well, what does Iron Man do?
It's Iron Man. He shoots stuff. Yeah.
He shoots
flies
stuff
around.
from his chest, his hands. He's got little things that pop up from his shoulders. He looks like this. You've got a template for Iron Man.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, it's interesting.
Not to discredit how much effort they clearly put into the design of the characters, because they did a really good job. But yeah.
Yeah. Even when you, I mean, well, like as an example, I know a guy who's making characters for a different IP that's been around forever since we were kids, and these characters have been well established forever, but it still costs them like around $10K to produce a single character with animations and VFX and all that stuff.
I can imagine that.
Yeah, and it takes a while too, you know.
I think people don't realize how good Blizzard is at creating characters, because when Overwatch came out and everyone fell in love with every single character almost immediately, that's not normal. That is very difficult. They absolutely killed it with that roster of characters at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from just hearing from other industry people too, they still talk about Blizzard engineers over there and like the tech on that team. They're like, yeah, they've been doing stuff that other studios have not even been able to replicate for like years in terms of like underlying tech for things. And I'm like, oh wow. Yeah. So there's like this whole behind the scenes appreciation level for certain studios that have just like huge brain engineers on their teams.
Yeah.
It's cool stuff. Yeah. Apparently like the Diablo 4 engine does some crazy server meshing stuff that like saves them huge amounts of costs on server fees and stuff by intelligently meshing servers in ways and
allocating resources.
Yeah. And they don't even advertise that tech, right? Probably because they just don't want people to like try and steal it or take it. It's their own proprietary system. So they're like, we're not going to tell them how we save tons of money. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's cool to learn some of that stuff behind the scenes.
Yes.
Should I welcome people to the podcast? I feel like we're kind of into it.
You could do that.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast, everybody. Welcome to Level With Me. We are on Wednesdays every week, and we do a live recording on Mondays, which you can watch like some of the lovely people in our audience right now are by becoming a Patreon member. that is linked in the video description. And post-podcast, we will have a discussion about anything that interests Batimio. So whatever season of My Little Ponies he's watching and whatnot, we'll get into the details on it. Yeah. So, yeah. Welcome, everybody. And I think, one of the bigger stories, at least in our realm of gaming this week, has been the Delta Force single player, well, not single player really, co-op campaign. Co-op. Yeah, I don't know. I want to say single player when I should just say campaign.
I was pleasantly surprised when I learned that it was free to play.
Yeah,
because I heard it was going to be a paid product, and I was like, oh, I don't want to, or I would because I like Delta Force, at least for what it, kind of the bones of it. But I was like, I don't know,
It's a lot that they're offering now for $0.
Yeah. So it was a pleasant surprise. But then after I beat the campaign, I was like, oh, that's why it was free.
Yeah. It also shouldn't, in my opinion, offer a play solo option.
Oh, no. It's impossible.
It's not designed for it. No, it's like somebody checked that checkbox and just like, I don't know. Yeah, I guess you could play by yourself. Let's not test that whatsoever. So people hopped on there thinking they're just going to play solo and like, oh wait, I can't
absolutely annihilated.
Yeah. Pretty looking game.
Did you play it yourself?
I played a little bit. I didn't play it all the way through.
Okay. Well, it's not very long. It took me 3 hours.
Okay. When I say played a little, I played a little. Like I played enough to get the idea.
You probably played like a mission, died a couple of times, like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's cool that it's like the movie and it even had like clips from the movie too. And like it has like a montage and they had the likeness of characters and it was kind of neat in that respect. But yeah, it's very just average. You're running through buildings, you're taking some shots and some guys. And then they have some of the jankiest, wildest AI where either they can't hit anything. The like normal AK guys will just hit you maybe every once in a blue moon. But then they've got like super soldier RPG chads on the rooftop that don't miss. And there's like 50 of them. My friend entered into a room and I literally saw about 10 tracers from RPGs hit his one location within 2 seconds. And I'm like, what kind of god tier unit do they have out there? It was nonsense.
You guys didn't move tactically enough. That's what it was.
We didn't. Yeah, he entered into a room and he didn't check the top of the other rooftop where there was like 10 guys and he died because of it. Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah. It's what I'm guessing happened was they had the idea for the game, which is not a bad idea. Like I like the idea of a really tactical, methodical co-op realistic experience. Like that appeals to a lot of people. They probably got to a point where they're like, the vision that we have is like, it's a lot more work, like we're going to have to spend an extra year on development. They released Delta Force with all these lofty promises. And then they're like, oh, okay, so, maybe the profits aren't quite hitting where they need to be. So they had to just sort of cap it at where it was and just be like, this is the product. It's free. You're welcome.
Yeah.
That's probably somewhere in the ballpark of what happened with the experience. Cause you can absolutely see what it probably should have been by playing it. And then you can see what the experience is when you play it. And you're like, oh, okay, this is super unrefined in many ways. Like, it's very pretty looking, but that's kind of like the best thing it's got going for it is that it's a really good looking game and it has the atmospherics of the Black Hawk Down movie and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's enough for some people, but maybe just because we're grizzled gaming veterans who've seen everything, we're sort of unimpressed by the mechanics of it.
Well, also the story, because it follows the story of the movie, and you've got missions that happen in the movie and things like that. But because you're not actually experiencing the movie where characters are interacting back and forth and all that, you don't have any of the emotional payoff at all because you don't connect with any of the. There's like really no characters in the actual. You don't have
that guy who's putting the dirt in the like. Oh wait, that was Saving Private Ryan. That guy's in it though. You know what I'm talking about?
I think so. Yeah.
I forgot his actor name, but he's
Me
like,
too.
he plays the same character in every army movie where he's just like completely apathetic to all the combat around him. There's like stuff exploding and there's guys on the ground that are like, mama, like covering their heads. And he just like walks up. He's like, what are you doing? Come on, let's go. And you're just like, okay, do you not fear death? You know?
No.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
so
like that guy.
it has none, like there's like no real characters in the game. So
Yeah.
you're just going on missions and things happen, which would have an emotional payoff if you actually had any connection to these characters, but you have none. So it's just, it's unless even if you watch the movie, you're like, oh, it's that scene.
Mm-hmm.
Do
you remember Orlando Bloom was in that movie?
Very briefly.
Yeah. He was in the helicopter.
They actually had a very star-studded cast.
Oh yeah,
they were all early on in their careers, and
I know it's crazy. Eric Bana was like the main,
and it's wild how they all like that movie for some reason just had just a group of them, and they all went on to be very successful.
Yeah, no, the movie. I mean, it's a great movie. I love that movie. I want to watch it again now. The game made me want to watch the movie because I'm like, this would be more enjoyable if I was just watching Black Hawk Down at this point.
Yeah.
A solid one though. Yeah, war movies are fun for whatever reason, because they're always like told very patriotically and glorified and all that stuff. Yeah.
Some of them. Yeah.
Some of them. Yeah, not like Full Metal Jacket where you're just like,
or God, what was it? All Quiet on the Western Front. I was like, I'm depressed now.
Yeah. That's true. A lot of modern war movie stuff kind of takes a little bit more of a grizzled, dark approach on things.
Because war in those era, like they weren't good. They were awful.
Yeah, I know.
Everyone, like they were miserable.
Sure. Yeah. Those World War I movies, man. Whew, those ones are fun.
Whew.
Yeah. You're just like, none of those are good or happy in any way.
Nope.
Yeah. War Horse, the movie about a horse in the. It's cool. It showed the like last cavalry charge in combat. Remember that?
I have not seen War Horse. No.
Yeah, the movie I think begins with like one of the final cavalry. Basically, when they discovered that the cavalry charge was no longer an effective tactic.
Effective.
Yeah. They're like, this is a bad idea.
Yeah, they were charging in like knights in World War I. Because they were like, this is how we did it. This is how war was managed, and they're just pop. Like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, the cavalry charge is terrifying when you have a sword. Not so much when you have a machine gun. Changes things up quite a bit.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, man. Now I just want to watch war movies.
Well, you could be like my YouTube algorithm and just constantly pepper me with clips from Band of Brothers over and over and over again. I'm like, why don't I just watch the show? Why are you just giving me quick little clips? This is nonsense.
Yeah.
Weird algorithm.
I know. Gosh, now I'm thinking about the airplane movie. What was it called? Or show? The World War II bomber squadron.
I do know what you're talking about. Yeah. Not Band. It's by the creators of Band of Brothers.
Yeah. That one was amazing.
Masters of the Air.
Yeah. That one
You're welcome.
That was really solid. Yeah.
It was good. Yeah.
Band of Brothers, The Pacific, Masters of the Air. Such good shows, man.
Yep.
So what games have you been playing? Anything you're looking forward to?
This week was a little all over the place. Finally beat Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and all I can say is cinema. It was
Deliverance.
Great. I think they did. All right. You are old, so you're a dad. You can make the dad jokes. It's fine.
That's all I got.
Yeah, I liked it. I didn't think that the ending was anything like spectacular in the sense that it was like bombastic and like, insane. It just felt like the rest of the game was, where it was just a slow build. You're constantly, it's just, there's a mission called the Italian Job, which I guess is kind of a little bit of a spoiler. But they've got like all these great little missions scattered throughout, and it all pushes the narrative in a direction. And it's just a really fun, well-made peasant simulator, and I loved it. It was just a great experience. I highly recommend it.
Cool, man. It's, what's funny is you just saying peasant simulators. Like, I think people just like being in the world, right? Where you can imagine all the game mechanics that it has in other games but just because they're all together in this like incredibly well-crafted medieval environment, you're like, I'm just here right now. I'm just a character. Yeah, I'm just a peasant,
pretty much.
Man.
And that's actually what I love is that, in a lot of RPGs, how the main character all of a sudden becomes the voice for everyone. They're like in every cutscene, it's the main character talking. In this, it's like, no. You're Henry. You're important. Well, I won't say because spoilers, but you're an important guy. But also at the same time, it gives the other characters around you the agency to actually talk and take command, and you're not just the head honcho the entire time. So it makes it feel like you're a part of the story. You are not the story.
Right. That's cool. Yeah, because there are a lot of games like that where you are so important and you're like the sole guy.
You're the savior of the world.
Yeah. The world, you have to kill 1,000 guys in the last mission, and you're just this kind of like demigod and everything's about you. And I do like games where you're a character in the story as opposed to the forefront of the entire story.
Yeah.
It could be nice. Takes a little pressure off,
Yeah. I also just the characters are just so well done. They're really fun.
How many hours to beat the game?
It took me 75 hours to beat. And that by the end, I was kind of just like, all right, I want to just get this game done because it got Monster Hunter in a couple of days. I need this finished, right? So there was still a ton of stuff that I could do side quest wise. Easily 100+ hour game if you want it to be. Easy 100+. Yeah.
Dang, man.
But yeah, what I was saying is the characters are so well done that they even start to make you question your own like the ways you approached combat and stuff. Is like this one character who's who the entire time you're thinking is just a total horrible individual. And then you actually meet him and he's still a horrible person, but you kind of sympathize with what he did. And without getting into spoilers, I won't say who it is or anything, but he's like, I remember everyone I kill. Do you? And you're just like, because like throughout the entire game, you're just hacking people to pieces. Yeah. Like, is my character actually a good guy at this point? Probably not.
These are the best kind of bad guys that they make you relate to. All of a sudden you're like, dang, I can see why this guy would think that now. And I kind of I'm sort of agree with him. If I had gone through all that stuff, I might think the same thing.
Yep.
Like those are the best ones, man.
And that's basically what the game does very well.
Yeah. It's, I saw a post, someone was making fun of, someone was saying this is the best written game I've ever played. And it was like the narrative and the characters are all so well written, and it was made in the Czech Republic, right? Is that where it is?
I think so, yeah.
Are they the Republic still? I don't know. And it was just comparing it to
Don't ask me geography questions. I won't be able to tell you, bro.
They're just comparing it to games that are written in English in an English speaking, native English speaking country. And they're like, man, this game's got way better dialogue. And then somebody was saying it's even better in Czech or whatever. And so.
Well, that's the thing is so we can transition on over. I played Avowed. Did we talk about this last time?
No, I think it had come out the day that we recorded
the recording.
The podcast.
Yeah. So I hadn't had a chance yet. So Avowed is great for certain things. But the thing that was a stark contrast was the writing style and the way the writing facilitates you moving through the world. Because in Kingdom Come Deliverance, everything felt very natural, but also because it was natural, it was much slower. Sure. Where it's like you get introduced to someone and then you kind of learn a little bit about them, and then maybe they'll have you go do something. But the encounter felt more realistic. In Avowed, it's just like almost all the other RPGs that you've played where you go up to a quest giver and they're like, maybe angry, and they're like, oh, what's wrong? And they're like, oh, it's that damn Tony. Yeah. And they're like, oh, well, who's Tony? And he's like, oh, he stole my fruit. And you're like, well, I'll go get your fruit, right?
It's video game writing syndrome, right? Or everybody's just got to be this overly animated cheese ball of a character.
Yeah.
Have you seen the memes where the NPC memes where people act like NPCs from video games, and all their characters are just like, hey, what are you doing over there, kid? And it's just like all this silly stuff. You're just like, yeah, why do we write characters so ridiculously in video games?
Well, it's because they're memorable that way, right? If you don't have a lot of time to develop a character, having them have a really quirky trait makes them memorable.
Yeah. I also think for the longest time, it's hard to break trends, right? So for the longest time, we need mechanics to engage with characters. Your characters couldn't just be walking around acting naturally in believable ways because we didn't have the game tech to make them do that for a very long period of time in game dev. And so you had to have like an interaction prompt. And then so they would go from just being like, I'm shoveling something. And then you interact and they're like, hey, what are you doing there? And it's like this awkward transition.
Yeah. Right.
And that has always just been like how games were made because that's the tech limitations of it. Now I think we're at a phase where things can transition more naturally, and we've still got that legacy stylizing from, decades of game development that did it a different way. And people are going to eventually figure out, hey, we don't have to write game characters in this super cheesy, bombastic, silly way.
So I want to make it clear I haven't beaten Avowed by any stretch. I think it's
Let's
an okay
hear the
game.
Full review. Your full.
Yeah, this isn't a review,
Okay.
but that was the one thing that immediately stuck out to me was the clear difference in the way that they wrote characters and the way they delivered dialogue and story and got you out into the world. Much slower in Kingdom Come, and some people aren't going to jive with that. Like it's like you have to be into that style because I could see people easily getting bored. Especially with modern day gamers who are like, I gotta go, combat. You'll have to go stretches where you'll play for hours and hours without hitting anyone or doing anything in that game, combat wise. In this game, Avowed, you're just like, oh, okay, well then I'll just go out in the world and explore. And that quest giver was like, go get me some fruit. So of course I got the fruit, right?
Yeah.
So that was one difference. The writing isn't bad. It's just so different compared to the two. The one thing it does very well, though, is goddamn, the exploration is fun.
Yeah.
It feels like every nook and cranny, there's something to find. You'll round a corner, it'll be like, is there anything down there? And there'll be a cave down there.
What kind of like visuals and like, is it open world or is it
open world-ish?
Open world.
So it's like you'll have like zones that are like big, and there'll be a lot to explore in there, but it's not like you can go like see off in the distance like 5 miles and you can go. Gotcha. You can't do that. So it's just like little self-contained areas, but they're very explorable.
Gotcha. That's always fun. Yeah. I think that's a great balance for a lot of
honestly,
games.
At this point. I'm tired of open world games that don't do it well because it's a lot don't do it well.
Well, it's incredibly hard because you go, okay, and then we're going to procedurally generate like a forest. And then the devs go, okay, so how much are we going to handcraft that forest? And I'm like, as much as we can. Guess what? That's not that much. And so the game comes out and you're like, yeah, there's areas to find in there, but in between those areas, you're just walking through a procedurally generated forest and it's boring, Yeah.
And I don't know how much for Kingdom Come there was with procedurally because the game is gorgeous and it looks and feels like a real world and the forest does. But that's one thing that it doesn't, I don't want to say does poorly because it's not going for that kind of a game.
Yeah, it's
but that's
trying
what I
to be
about
realistic.
Avowed.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I liked about Avowed is that you go into an area and you're like, I wonder what that leads into. And you go down into the cave and it leads to a dungeon or you you find like this little nook and it opens up into like a brand new area that you don't get that in Kingdom Come because there's not dragons. There's not, a spider's nest or goblins. So you can't get that sense of exploration that Avowed, I think does.
What do you think
really
about
well.
A game that is like Kingdom Come but has fantasy in it? So it has the spider's nest.
If they literally squished that with like the Elder Scrolls game, oh my god!
Yeah, that could be dope.
The writing, the dialogue, and the world itself, but at the same time with fantasy creatures.
Yeah, because if you have that slow pacing of like a 70-hour game that finishes with like a dragon battle and you've never seen a dragon before, like that would be insane, right? That would be
pretty cool.
Crazy buildup.
Yeah, that would be sick.
Yeah. It's funny thinking about so like scale has always been one of those things that I've wondered about with game design because I remember the first time talking to like a Battlefield level designer, and he was talking about how they made all the roads in the game actually much narrower than real life roads. And when they were like when they were modeling Shanghai for Siege of Shanghai, it's based on a real location, but they shrunk down a lot of the roads and the intersections because they're like, yeah, if we made it at normal scale, these spaces would be huge and really annoying to like cross. Yeah. And so they literally made roads at a reduced scale to real life roads and all that kind of stuff. And then you play a game like World War III, which was modeling its locations on like, you know, like actual city dimensions and satellite imagery of like those specific locations. And you're crossing these massive open areas with like no cover in between. You're like, oh, okay, man, like a lot of the games I think we play are super reduced scale. Like they're not going for that hyper, but you don't think about it until somebody explains to you that.
Well, it's because when you're in those cities and in those environments, they're populated. And so it feels claustrophobic, more claustrophobic when you're there. But when you remove all the cars, you remove all the pedestrians, it's like, holy cow, there is actually a ton of room here. That it doesn't feel like that. And also game design for sure.
Sure. Yeah. If you had a firefight in an empty Walmart parking lot, it would be huge, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Not making a very good game level or whatever, or at least a massive game level potentially. Yeah. So it is interesting just to see like the scales and how it affects the pacing, because everybody goes, we want realistic. And then it's like, well, realistic is huge, guys, or slow or cumbersome. And yeah, I'd be curious to know, like with Kingdom Come Deliverance, like is the traversal time between cities and areas on the realistic side, or is it on the game side?
It's more on the game side, I think. The places that you are visiting, I think, are like they're relatively close together. There's 2 maps, and they're large, but they're not so large that it becomes clunky. And you're like, God damn, I have to travel from one side over to the other. Thankfully, there's fast travel once you actually reach a destination. But yeah, it's reasonable size. I think it's game size. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Well, to switch gears and pivot unnaturally.
Good.
So we've talked about Balatro a bit on this channel. I know you've played it quite a bit.
Played it, yeah.
I did just download it on my phone. I was like, this seems like a good mobile game.
Yeah, well, welcome to the dark side. Good luck.
I know. What's funny is shortly after it came out, I believe this was Europe-wide, or at least within a bunch of European countries, it got rated as an 18-plus game, basically because it had gambling imagery in it. And so like they're just like, okay, so you need like parental permission to buy this. And I thought it was very funny because they just appealed and they just won their appeal case. So now the age rating is more appropriate, although it might be like 12 plus or something. I don't know what it was, but
I mean, that's okay. Like, you know,
well, the devs, when they first ruled that it was 18 plus, they're like, FC, which is the new soccer game or whatever, they're like, that's a 3+ rating, and it has literal gambling in
it. Yeah.
But ours has things that you associate with gambling. Yeah, which is not even gambling imagery, really. It's playing cards.
It's a card game.
Yeah. So it's like, Texas Hold'em and poker rules can be used for gambling, but there's also plenty of card games that have nothing to do with gambling. It's just so silly, man.
Yeah, it is silly.
Yeah.
That's nonsense.
So at least they overruled it, but they probably
saying policy, old boomer policy people aren't, in touch with games? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, it's very silly. And just the thing that gets me is that if they hadn't made enough money, they might have not had enough money to actually fight this in like an appeals court.
Oh, right. Know? Yeah.
So they're just like, relegated to 18+ jail in Europe because somebody over there doesn't.
Reasons.
Yeah, this is like, it reminds me of YouTube copyright policy that's like somebody over there that just got hired in the like content moderation department is like been given your video to moderate, and then you'll get like, this video is too violent or something, and you're like, it's a Battlefield video that I made. What do you mean? I made 1,000 Battlefield
millions
videos
of them,
and it's just like that one dude was just like, it's too violent. I started yesterday and I read the memo on how to rate videos, and that's probably what happened to like Balatro. Some dude was like, gambling imagery, we're just gonna like massively reduce the amount of people that will be eligible to buy your game.
Yep.
Anyway, I just thought that was at least they reversed it. And they're doing fine. They've sold like billions,
a ton. Yeah, they're doing very well. Still.
Now, did you play the new Dune Awakening game yet?
I don't think you can you? There was
there's a
character creator.
Okay, there might be a closed test or something.
Oh, no, I haven't had a chance.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was an open test or a closed test because I know people have played it. I just wasn't sure.
No, I didn't get a chance. Here it's a little janky though, and people are worried that they might be releasing it too soon.
I hear that huge surprise here, Matt. I hear that not everybody's happy with the end game content. We've never heard that one before in any sort of long-term progression game. Yep. I haven't played it personally. I am excited by the universe. I don't know if I'm convinced by the game concept yet. It's a cool idea because they're kind of breaking the mold of this. I'm bringing it up because it's supposed to be coming out May 20th. Which is, relatively soon.
A couple of months away.
Yeah, but it's on the near horizon.
We will blink, it'll be here.
Yeah, and it's a different take on the MMO concept because they are actually making a survival MMO with base building and stuff, which is it's sort of new. Like there's games that do it, but they do it in like smaller servers and stuff. Like Rust or something, right?
Yeah.
And this is saying, you'll have a multiplayer character and you're in this giant survival MMO world where sandworms can eat you and you can fly around, and then PvP is like a major focus of the end game stuff.
Yep.
And I mean, it sounds cool.
What were people saying about the end game that they weren't jiving with?
So I think it's heavily reliant on PvP for end game. And so if you got into the experience for more of the PvE side of content, and then you get to end game and it's like go kill players, you might be less excited by that, which I can understand, right?
Yeah. So my understanding is like there's going to be some resources that are really valuable. I'm assuming it's going to be spice related, knowing the Dune universe.
Yeah.
And the idea of having your little crew go out and, getting whatever the resource that it is, probably spice. And then you see a big caravan out in the distance because it's a giant desert, right? So it's going to be pretty easy to see people like from long range. Like, all right, guys, we gotta go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta go. And then you can like run away and, so that's how you can be sort of like a scavenger. Or you can have those really big raids where it's like, no, we can't move very quickly because there's so many of us, but good luck trying to take us away from like this mining camp or whatever, right? Like we're going to be able to dominate the server. So it sounds like it could be kind of fun to have that sort of dynamic where you've got guilds and smaller little groups running around and having interactions. But that stuff needs to be useful for something to actually get people incentivized to go out and actually go after those valuable resources, right? So it can't just be exclusively PvP. I feel like there's got to be some other thing that's driving the game forward.
Ideally, with those types of games, and we've seen a whole bunch of games try and tackle this similar problem, is you have to have PvE and PvP content that draws players in. You have to have some crossover content that maybe is geared at PvE, but players can come in and fight each other for it also. And it's got to be balanced out. And, there's games like Gray Zone Warfare, which are like kind of everybody plays it and they do the PvE content, and there doesn't seem to be quite as much PvP. And now they're kind of working in the PvP mechanics better, where they're like, okay, you go for this mission, but everybody's going to go for this mission. And now you have time limited content. And so it's about finding a balance, but also if they don't have enough just exclusively PvE content, then if you build a game around a player base that half of which is enjoying the PvE stuff, leveling up, and then they get to the end game and it's all PvP, they're not gonna have much that they want to do.
What the hell? Why did I just spend all that time?
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just talking about reviews because I haven't played the game or things that people have written about the game. But I think it's cool that they're trying something new, and I do like the universe of Dune.
Yeah.
So I want to check it out.
Those movies were incredible.
Yeah. Also, how often do people really release like an actual MMO these days? You know what I mean?
I think more than you'd expect, but I think it's just because you don't really live in the MMO space. It doesn't happen as often.
Maybe you're right.
But yeah, there's like, especially I think in like Asian communities, it's a lot more.
Is it? Okay.
They're a lot more common. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're not coming out like candy. Like,
I'm trying to think of like big MMO title launches, and like the last major one I can think of was Amazon's game,
New World. Yeah,
yeah, that was like the last big one I can think of.
I think you're probably right, at least for the Western market.
Yeah.
There was a Throne and Liberty though that was recent, but that was also a game that was originally developed in I think like Japan or Korea, and then it got translated and moved to the west. So.
That's right. Yeah, if I looked at the Asian MMO gaming market, I'm sure there'd be just
they're a lot more popular over there.
Yeah. The characters, man. It's the characters that hold me back from those ones. Every time I see one, it's like you're just a big-breasted, tiny-waisted anime chick.
Oh, speaking of
armor. Oh, yeah. What?
Speaking of, played Mecha Break, which is the new like Gundam style big robots action oriented PvP game. Their character creator, those are some of the tightest outfits I have ever seen, and boy, they're
they gotta fit into the robots, Matt.
But is there a reason why that when you're going into your robot?
Oh my god, I'm looking at some of the images now. My gosh.
Yeah.
There's they are.
Let's just say they're all well endowed.
Exactly.
We'll just say that.
Yeah. This is some like dead or alive beach volleyball level. You're just like, okay, not every are these genetically engineered specimens?
Big.
Yeah.
The butts are so big where I'm like, your legs should be bigger if your butt is this big. That's how muscles work. Like the only way to activate the glutes is to use your legs. So like you got like these huge butts on like really skinny legs. It's like, this looks weird.
You gotta love Asian games, Yeah.
They're hot. I can't deny it's hot.
It's reliable,
Yeah, they added in. So there's a demo going out right now. I think it's an open beta, and they have their normal PvP, which was fun in the past. Mm-hmm. Though it looks like they've added in much more of a grind this time around to unlock different characters. Like in the previous betas, it was pretty easy to get characters and try them all out and experiment. But now it's like, okay, we got to dial in our grind system. So you got to start grinding because it's going to be free to play. So that's been a bit of a point of contention for players. But one thing I wasn't expecting, I guess I just haven't really looked into the game too much, is that they have a PvPvE extraction style mode.
Oh, really?
Where you go in and it starts off easy. I haven't really tried it too much. I only played one round. But I was very intrigued by the end of my stream because like, oh man, this could actually be kind of cool. You come in with a particular Gundam giant mech, right? And then you need to survive and take out bots and then get loot from them. And then you have the option every once in a while to extract, and you can extract and successfully, take your stuff out. Or you can keep going, and the longer it goes, the harder it gets. But
double or nothing, baby.
The more players that are going to then you're probably going to meet, because I think it maybe closes or maybe, groups people together. It's not like a circle, but
okay.
I do think there's mechanics to get people to kind of fight each other.
So it's a mecha extraction shooter.
Yeah. And I was like,
cool.
That's kind of neat, right? That's kind of interesting, where it's less about getting the drop on people and more of you have like maybe a really intense fight where you need to be coordinated and using your different abilities and your mech's play style to your advantage. And I was like, that if done well, that could actually be kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm looking at the images. It's funny how much of Gundam, like stylistically, rip off the game is. Is like, I get it. Like bipedal robots, there's only so much variation.
There's only so much you can do.
But if you compare something like, what was that FromSoft mecha game called?
Armored Core.
Yeah. You compare like Armored Core to a Gundam, you can see a lot of visual differences. This game I'm looking at, I'm like, is that a Gundam? Is that actually oh no, it's just like almost exactly.
It definitely is going for that style for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I don't know. I'm a sucker for big robots, man. I like
Me too.
They're
They
cool.
are, and they are cool. They are. It is definitely a cool. It's definitely a cool aesthetic. The game's okay. I mean, it's an open beta right now, so anyone can try it out. And I'd recommend if you're at least interested in it. But just know it is definitely a work in progress. The cutscenes are over the top, but the voice acting is definitely not lining up. They even have a moment where the voice actor changes mid-sentence, or like,
yeah, what?
because they're like, yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a work in progress. So
Dang.
they're like,
They just have
literally
like a dev. They're like, Tim's out sick today,
Yeah,
so let's have Todd finish his lines for him.
Yeah, pretty
Like,
much.
Okay. Yeah, that's not gonna be weird.
It's kind of strange.
Yeah.
But
And the
yeah,
butts
it's
butts
fun.
and boobs aren't big enough for you. Is that your other critique, Matt? They need to be bigger.
If you like scantily, well, I wanted to. Well, it's definitely it's going for a certain aesthetic. That's for sure. We'll just say that.
You gotta love mecha games because it's such a genre, right? Like Gundam kind of established it in like the 80s, and now it's like it just hasn't changed. People love these giant robots that a small person goes inside of, and then for whatever reason, these robots all have to have melee weapons in addition to like.
Oh yeah, but it is cool when you're like jetting around.
Oh,
and you
it's
slash
super cool.
It's super cool.
It's just it's so funny how that formula has not changed like at all. They're just like, no, you need some sort of big beam sword or axe or something, and then a gun also, because I mean, what if somebody gets close to you? You gotta chop them with your axe, you know?
Exactly.
Everybody knows that soldiers on the battlefield fight each other with axes and bayonets still, in addition to their fully automatic weaponry. And
it's as a narrative, it's just so much easier to actually share and have a combat encounter that is engaging, because when it's just people shooting at each other, it's just like bang bang, bang bang, bang bang. That's not really all that entertaining. But when it's swords and shields, it's like, back and forth, you know?
It's cool. Yeah. I'm intrigued. I mean, like, you had me, like, when you said kind of mecha game, I was kind of like semi-intrigued, but then I saw the characters and I was like, okay.
Yeah, they're hot.
We might have to also, take a look at this game.
You could get cosmetic skins where you're now in a schoolgirl outfit, because of course you are.
Wear the furry outfits, Matt. I mean, I assume that's in the game, right? There's got to be some furry crap.
I haven't seen that. God. Yeah. It's like full on like anime nonsense.
I mean, give it another decade, Matt, and we're gonna be the weirdos for not wearing furry outfits.
I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think furry's taking over. I don't think it's going that direction.
All right. Well, we have it on recording now. All right.
Okay. Well, if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I didn't play any new games. I played pinball and I played more Beyond All Reason, but I did watch a new movie that I was really curious about. It's hard to talk about because I don't want to give away spoilers.
Okay.
But the trailer for the movie's called Companion. And the trailer for it just had me like sitting there going, what in the heck am I about to watch? Because it was like a guy and a girl at like a dinner, and the girl's holding their hand over a candle while it catches on fire. And I'm just going, what is happening? This looks insane.
It's got the guy from The Boys.
Yeah. Dennis Quaid's kid. I forgot his name.
Jack Quaid.
Jack Quaid. I liked it. I thought it was good. It was kind of like Black Mirror light, if you will, where they take a Black Mirror type concept and do it with a little bit more levity, as opposed to just like leaving you despondent afterwards. You know, Black Mirror is like, here's a horrible idea that seems extremely plausible and nothing turns out well in the end for any of these characters. And then the episode's over and you're just like, okay, is that our future now? And then you're just depressed. This was like, here is a truly terrifying concept that seems like it could absolutely be in our future. And we're going to kind of have a little bit of fun with it and play some dark humor and not
Is she a robot?
I'm not giving anything away. I'm not going to say anything.
She's a robot.
There's a lot of very so
you don't have to say anymore. Okay, you've already.
I'll just say this: the twists in the movie are explained very early on, and then the rest of the movie becomes about the premise, as opposed to M. Night Shyamalan.
The mystery is the entire
end.
thing, the entire way through, and then you get to the end, you're like, oh, it wasn't actually that interesting.
No, it tells you the twist pretty much at the beginning of the movie, and then from there you're sort of in it.
Gotcha.
It was fun. It was. I will criticize it, and maybe this is a budget thing, but movies. There's some movies that do this where they throw in some piece of technology as like a major plot driving device, and that tech is so much more advanced than the world around it, where you're like, okay, wouldn't everything else be more advanced? But in this, they try and do it by people are driving Teslas and like Hyundai Ioniqs. Is that what they're called? Those like kind of cool electric cars from Hyundai, which look kind of futuristic-y, but if you've seen them on the road, you're like, that's just a Tesla. That's just a Hyundai. Like,
right.
And then the main character has like, I think Samsung had one of those flip out phones. You know what I'm talking about? Where the screen bends.
Oh yeah.
It becomes that's like his phone, but it's supposed to be like a future phone. And I'm like, this is all stuff that we have right now. But they're like,
but it's not
the future.
It
was budget future is what I call it. Future on a budget.
I'm okay with that.
I found it. Yeah, it really didn't really detract from the movie too much, other than me being a nerd going like, wait, we have this piece of tech, but we're still all driving like a 2024
Where's
Tesla?
my flying cars?
Yeah.
That aren't helicopters.
Yeah. I mean, like, why aren't we all wearing augmented reality glasses? And like,
It's because it's in their eyeballs. That's why. You don't see the glasses.
We go.
It's digitally, uploaded to your brain.
Yeah. There was that, there's like a show that came out right around when Black Mirror came out. I forgot what it was called, but it like took place in the UK, and it was sort of this dystopian future version of our world. And like, it was like parents, it covered a bunch of different characters, but like one of the families in it was like, they were raising their kid, and like their daughter had like a holographic emitter projector, like glasses. And so she would make herself look like some little cartoon character, and she like just assumed that identity, and so that was like the parents' conundrum, and they're like, they couldn't communicate with her unless they talked to her by her character name and all that stuff.
Right. And I'm like, this character now.
Yeah,
dude, it's I absolutely see that being the future
for sure. That's why these shows are so creepy, because they pull from like current issues that are real, and then they're just like, now multiply that with creepy technology. And you're like, oh crap! Like, yeah, in 10 years you're gonna be.
Imagine, because we're already struggling with that. Yeah. With like body image issues, right? You get your beauty standards. Dudes like in their 20s going on like steroids and like TRT and stuff like that. It's like, you are ruining. You're like, you look great.
Having heart attacks and stuff. Yeah,
you look great. You're 20. You could have done maybe not all of this. You wouldn't have looked that big. But you give it, 5 years of exercise, you would have looked great. You would have looked amazing, and you wouldn't have ruined your body, right? Yeah. So if we're dealing with these things now with the beauty industry, imagine when we have the technology to actually physically change the way people look or perceive the way that you look. Yeah. Like what you said, like a hologram or like augmented reality, where if you're wearing glasses, you just see that person the way they want to be seen, right?
It's like an age filter in real life, IRL, right? How terrifying would that be, dear God?
I would finally have a hairline,
purple hair, long flowing
locks.
Hair.
Yeah. Gorgeous.
There was like, oh man, there's a post on social media the other day where, like this girl's, she's looking into the camera, blabbing about whatever, and like turns away for a second to like talk to her boyfriend or something, and the filter turns off for warps. Like half a second, and she turns back, and she looks like 40 years older. It's insane. Oh my God. And you're just like, oh my God, the age filter is like...
That's wild.
Yeah, someone's like, one of the comments was like, she almost killed the age filter on this one or whatever. But like, that kind of stuff is crazy.
People are grappling with that already. Yeah. And you can't compete. That's why I wish it happens with a lot of women too, is they'll take photos with filters on. It's like, I get why you're doing this, because it does make you look nice, but at the same time, that's not you. And you're going to look in a mirror, and you're not going to be able to like compete with the filter, and you're
Yeah.
like, there's no way your brain's gonna be like, you're gonna. It's good. I can't imagine there isn't gonna be problems with that. There has to be.
It's probably
mental problems with
already
that.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that one time when I turned off your filter for the podcast, Matt, and you almost lost it, dude. Nobody knows that you're 60. It's crazy.
Nobody knows this entire time. I'm actually a 60-year-old man.
Yeah. But, surprisingly spry for your age. Quite good at video games, all things considered,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
you've kept my secret until now, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, we kept the widow's peak in the age filter, just for some consistency.
for authenticity reasons.
Yeah. There's kind of an art to it. You can't go too far,
Yeah, it's like a lie, right? There has to be a kernel of truth.
Yeah. We couldn't give you like Fabio hair. People would be like, what's
Right.
going on? Like, what's this Fabio guy doing?
Yeah, exactly.
If anyone
100%.
gets that reference.
Yeah, you're probably right. People don't probably know who Fabio is.
I know. Yeah, I don't know. It's funny.
Younger generation, probably not.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, do you believe those videos where they like go out and they interview like young people and they don't know anything?
100%. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I believe that there's people that don't know those things.
Is that the norm? No.
Well, what I'm saying is, do they interview 20 people and like most of them know all the stuff, and then they just pick out the 3 people that look like idiots,
Yeah.
And so
I would
then
think
they're
that'd
like,
be the case.
look how dumb young people are. And
Also,
then,
you ever get a camera put in your face and you're not used to it, and then someone asks you a question and you just blank? Yeah, dude, that probably happens a ton where they just blank. Like people ask, like, name a woman, and they're like, like straight up, they just can't name a
Margaret
woman.
Thatcher.
They just can't. They can't do it because it's.
Why is that the name that came to my head?
I have
first?
no idea. You could have named your mother. You could have named your wife. You could have named so many people. We went with Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah. I think it's because there's that Austin Powers bit where he's trying to like make himself like not aroused, and he goes, Margaret Thatcher naked on a rainy day. Margaret Thatcher naked on a rainy day. That's always stuck with me for some reason.
I don't know why it would.
That's how he overpowered the fembots.
Yeah.
Classic scene.
Yeah, it's hard to resist them too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should watch. Speaking of which, you should watch Companion. We'll compare notes.
I should. I definitely. Is it on Apple?
I don't know.
Where did you watch it?
Amazon.
Amazon. Okay.
I had to rent it though. I know that's a little pricey for you, Matt.
Thank you, Level.
Let's be honest. Are you going to spend money to rent it?
Probably wouldn't spend money on renting it. You're probably right. You're right. No, it's okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I know you.
Yeah, you do. I did watch The Gorge, though. You ever hear about that one?
I heard the name. I saw that it got bad reviews, so I didn't watch it.
I mean, on Rotten Tomatoes, it's at not great. It's not sitting great.
I mean, I'll take your review over Rotten Tomatoes,
65
Matt.
on Critic and 77 on the popcorn meter for normal people.
Okay. I like a good popcorn film. Oh, it's White Eyes Girl. God, she's in everything. What is her name?
It's Anya Taylor-Joy. Yeah. She's very pretty.
I can't watch a movie these days without her popping up in it. It's insane.
She's very pretty.
The amount of money that woman must have made in the last like 5 years, it's gotta be like.
Well, I think she basically got started. She probably didn't get started, but like her popularity and like her presence, her widespread media presence only happened recently. So she's definitely taking advantage of it.
It was that chess show on Netflix that I saw her in the first time, and then I saw her in like 20 movies after that. And I was just like, this is crazy.
Yeah. So it's her, and she's only 28. It's her and Miles Teller, who's also a cool actor.
Mm-hmm.
And they are supposedly incredible elite snipers, where they can take a shot from like 3,000.
Oh yeah, I saw a clip of this. I saw a clip of this and was like, "What the heck am I watching right now?"
The trailer for it is absolutely bonkers. Where they're like, "There's this gorge in the middle of nowhere."
Is that literally why it's called Gorge? Because it's about a gorge?
Yeah, literally.
Jeez.
The entire movie is about. So it starts off with them getting recruited to go and defend this gorge, which supposedly according to the trailer, is a gateway to hell, and they're protecting the world from this gateway to hell, right?
In the gorge. Let's call it gorge and not gateway to hell or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, I mean, I don't want to spoil it because it's not actually a gateway to hell. So, spoiler
you just spoiled it, Matt. Now I know.
Yeah, I'm sorry I ruined the movie for you. But anyways, it's actually got a fun premise. Like the premise at the beginning sounds absolutely outlandish, but then when they actually start to justify it, you're like, okay, I can kind of see why this is the way that it is. Then there's the big reveal. And it starts off relatively strong. Then there's the reveal, and you're like, okay, this is okay. And then by the end, it crumbles under its own weight. Where I'm like, oh no, they didn't think this one all the way through, and boy, it fell apart.
Yeah, you know what though? Those movies are fun. I will argue that
it was a fun movie. I wasn't disappointed that I watched it by the end, but I definitely wouldn't like be like, you have to see it, right? Like it's like if you're bored and you're looking for something to do, like it's a movie. Yeah. It also turns into a romantic movie too, because of course they're like hot. Yeah. And so like it's just these two snipers on towers, and they're like they start communicating when they're not supposed to, and they're like, you're hot, I'm hot. Let's you know.
Nothing says professionally trained operative.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
exactly.
Two snipers that can't stop from banging, on mission.
They keep doing all these things. They're like, that's not very professional, but it's a movie, so I'll look past it. I don't really care, So that's a thing. But yeah, I enjoyed my time, but like I said, good start, decent reveal, ending was, but
okay,
it was fine.
I'll keep it in mind for a good popcorn flick. It's like I like the movies. Do you remember that movie? I can't remember what it is, and you probably won't either because it's so like flash in a pan type film. But it had like Chris Pratt in it, and he like time travels to I think it's time travels to like a future. He's like they're trying to, and there's like all these aliens.
Oh, I love that movie.
You did?
I love that movie. Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And all the aliens
because
are
the story
like,
was any good.
Oh yeah.
But, yeah.
That's what I mean is like, it was terrible, but like I enjoyed it the whole way through. I'm like, this is so bad. And I can't stop watching.
The monster design slapped, dude. Yeah. They were terrifying. And the way they moved and how aggressive they were. Oh, so good. Loved it. Love that stuff. Story, not great.
Yeah, the whole thing. And then there's a scene where they're all getting beamed into the future or something and like falling like hundreds of feet onto the ground. And you're like, whoops, you got that calculation wrong.
Slam! Yeah, I think some only survived because they fell into like a
pool
that was on the giant building. And if it was
literally everybody got beamed like a mile into the air. And only the ones that survived were the ones that fell into the swimming pool of a skyscraper. Like, wow, that's a fun, terrifying premise. You really don't want to get those time travel calculations wrong.
Yeah, you really don't.
Yeah, a lot of things can go wrong. But yeah, that movie was so stupid, and also I just enjoyed it. Like it kept me awake from start to finish. I was like, well, I gotta see where this is going.
Is it called the Tomorrow War?
Yeah, probably. That sounds about right.
They're making a second one?
Oh hell yeah, Matt! We get a sequel.
Hell yeah.
You gotta watch out though. Sometimes they make fake trailers. So
yeah, that's what I'm worried about right now. But it's Screen Rant says Chris Pratt's Tomorrow War 2 gets update after years. Well, the first one's called Tomorrow War.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like how the Rotten Tomato is 52 for critics and then 76 for normal people. It's like, no, I get it.
Yeah.
I love the monster design. Like I thought they're actually menacing, and then like I loved how
it was like a video game movie is what it was.
They showed them. It wasn't like all dark and gritty, and that's what I love about modern day CGI. When it's done well, is they actually can show like these creatures, and I love cool creature design. I mean, I have a bunch of books back there. It's just Dungeons and Dragons because there's a bunch of. I love the monster manuals. I love creatures. So.
And one of my favorite things about Starship Troopers movies, where they're just like, here's 1,000 bugs like running at you, and then they're just like these awesome bugs that they show up close, ripping people apart, and you're like, oh, that's cool looking, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it me or has Chris Pratt only been in junk for like the last 5 years?
Yeah.
He's raking it in.
He's a megastar. Yeah. But I feel like
nothing's been good. Yeah, it's all been bad.
Yeah, I agree.
It's I don't know what it is. The megastars like hit this level and then they maybe they get too much ego, or they're just like, I'm going to pick the scripts, instead of like having their agents, or they have a bad agent or whatever. It's like, remember when like Will Smith just did a whole bunch of bad sci-fi movies for like a decade? And you're like, what are you doing, man? Pick some good scripts.
How dare you? Men in Black is a masterpiece. How dare you?
Men in Black is fantastic.
Yeah, it's very good.
The sequels.
The sequel's not so much.
Debatable.
Bro, I love that first movie. It was so good.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. It's a classic. I mean, Will Smith in the like early 2000s was unbeatable. He was the mega star,
Yeah.
How our heroes fall.
And then he slapped someone live on television.
He was on a streamer's thing like last week.
I heard he was on XQC, yeah.
Oh,
which is just like, what
seems
the hell?
So weird. Yeah.
It's very strange.
I mean, I got weirded out when big celebrities started coming on different streamer platforms, and I was just like, what's happening right now? This is backwards, like.
Well, I mean, they actually like streaming is so popular now.
Yeah.
And some of the bigger ones, they watch these people. They're just normal people level. And they watch these streamers and they're like, yeah, this is entertaining for me. Mm-hmm. Same way it's entertaining for me to watch you when you live stream.
Oh, thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
Been a while.
It has been a while. As a matter of fact, it was probably the same time when I was live streaming Star Citizen. You probably were streaming Star Citizen at the same time.
Yeah, I think my last live stream was covering Star Citizen's CitizenCon thing.
Yes, yeah.
It's a long.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. I don't stream a lot anymore.
Yeah, except for right now. Yeah. To all of our wonderful viewers.
Yeah, to our Patreon members, indeed. Well, Matt, you get any other games under your belt this week?
Played a little bit of the beta for Killing Floor 3, and it was okay. Yeah. I've never played the Killing Floor franchise. I enjoyed it, but also everyone that said that it wasn't as good as the previous games, and they were not really too happy with it. So not really sure how to take that.
Killing Floor is a weird one.
Yeah.
I don't fully understand it. I can appreciate it, but it's kind of like campy horror, but also with a game mode that's like not super. It's got like some complex rules to it that I can see you wanting to get into, and it sort of adds that depth to it where you're like, oh, okay, there's a whole bunch of different ways to like beat the monsters and the bad guys and all that stuff. It's interesting, but yeah, the campy horror angle was always something that just never really quite appealed to me that much.
So I don't really know what the previous games are like, but the aesthetic of it is like brutal. Love the monsters and the zombies look really awesome. But then your character is like skibbity dibbity, skibbity toilet, like saying just like stupid stuff. I'm like, this feels like it clashes a little bit, where everything's all brutal and bloody, and then you've got characters saying just really silly things. So that kind of wasn't something I was super fond of. It's going to be a very grindy game, which I know some people might like, where you can like pick a character, grind them, level them up, which makes them stronger so you can attempt harder content, and that harder content will give you better rewards, and so that you can get even better stuff, right? But also, maybe this is just because I'm more variety now, where I don't just dedicate myself to one game, but the idea of having to spend tens upon tens of hours to level up a character just to kind of get the full experience of that character, and only that character and no other character, loses its luster a bit. It's like I don't want to grind.
Well, I think what that says to me is that the grind of it is not fun, where you take a game like, say, Path of Exile, and as long as you're making forward progress, you're like, yeah, this is way more fun. Like, my character after 80 hours is going to be so much different than my character after 20 hours, right? There will be a significant change, but I'm enjoying the progress, the time I spend to build it up. It doesn't feel like a grind.
So we'll see what they do with the game, because it was only a couple of levels, and maybe like the normal difficulty, there'll be like a campaign where you go from level to level to level, and it'll be like a narrative that drives it forward, and you won't mind the grind because you'll be having new things to do. But in the beta, you only had 3 levels, so it was like you just felt like you were grinding in a beta, because you were. So
can I ask, so as a streamer, when you kind of sign up to do a game, or sign up where you're just like, hey, I'm going to play this game for my stream today, and after like an hour, you're sort of like, I get it, I'm good, or or around, like, do you just continue on and make sure that your audience gets a good amount of it, or do you just bail as soon as you're like, I think I've had
I don't
enough?
usually bail on games unless I'm not having fun.
Yeah.
So if I usually, so last night is when I played it last night.
Yeah.
And I played it for like 3 hours. I think I actually played it for about 4 hours. And I was like, okay, I'm good. And then I moved on to and then I played Mecha Break. Right.
Do you try and put in like a solid 4 hours then on something?
I usually try to give a game a fair shake. Yeah. I don't usually like to just be like 1 hour and then done, unless I'm just not jiving with it.
Yeah.
I don't like to bounce around usually when I'm live streaming for a night. I normally like to pick a game and play it for my full like 6 to 7 hours and then call it a night.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's just not possible for demos and betas. So Does that make sense?
Yep, totally. I just wasn't sure. I don't think I have the patience. If I'm like my difference is if I'm not loving a game, I just don't want to play it. Where I'm like, this is interesting, but I'm not like, I can see where it's going. I kind of get it. And I'm not really interested in seeing more.
I wouldn't say I'm as strict as that. Like I will play a game that I'm just enjoying, but not loving all the time.
Yeah. That's hard for me where I'm just, it's made streaming difficult for me where I'm just like, well, I don't like this game, so I don't want to play it right now. I'm going to go back to my favorite games,
I don't play games that I'm not liking, but if there's a game where I'm like, I want to give this a try and I want to give it a fair shake, I'll maybe push further than I normally would if I wasn't streaming, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. I remember when I had the Facebook streaming contract when they were doing that, trying to push Facebook gaming or whatever it was. So they gave me a contract that was like a flat rate for just streaming every month.
So many hours.
And so I was less concerned about growing the channel because it was just a flat rate. And I didn't really see a future in Facebook gaming. Hey, guess what? I saw the writing on the wall there.
You sure did.
So I wasn't super invested in trying to like build my channel. I mean, they didn't design the contract right. Honestly, they should have designed the contract where it's like, if you hit certain benchmarks, then whatever.
But then I don't feel like you would want to sign that contract because then you're...
Yeah, for sure. It's too much of a risk. So I just played whatever I was in the mood for, as opposed to trying to play games that were designed to grow the channel, right? Because it was like...
Fortnite. So you weren't playing your Call of Duties, your Apex Legends when that was popular?
Exactly. Yeah. Fortnite and COD were the biggest things on Facebook gaming, and I had no interest in playing those things. So I just played so much World of Warships because I could just sink endless hours into that game. Yeah. Literally, I was getting Krakens like all the time. It was great. That's when you sink 5 ships in a match, Matt.
Nice.
But yeah, it's just funny. I didn't like jumping around. I'm like, no, I'm going to go to like my favorite games and I'm just going to play that. And it's great if there's a huge viewership for World of Warships. There is not a huge viewership for World of Warships. But so you know what? That game still
That's
holds
the tricky thing about streaming.
Special place
and
in my
why
heart.
I'm grateful that I can do variety is you're right. Because there's some games that you want to play, but no one wants to watch it.
Yeah.
And so you have to make that business decision. It's like, well, I'm really enjoying this, but like it sucks for the channel. So but thankfully, like because I've established myself as variety, I can get away with that more often, which is awesome.
Congrats, man.
yeah, it's nice. But even I still have to think about it.
Do you not miss the days of playing Battlefield every single day for all of your content?
Or Rainbow Six Siege every single goddamn day? I do not miss those days. No.
I mean, I miss moments of the Battlefield days, but
no, so do I.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like I still go back and play Battlefield regularly, and
it's nice when you haven't had to play it so religiously for a long time.
Yeah.
In moderation.
You play any game long enough, like it's gonna wear on you, and those you can't.
Unless it's World of Warships, I can play World of Warships.
Unless it's that, apparently,
ad nauseum, man. Or like a solid RTS, like a Factorio type thing, or anything where you can just build forever. Like, I mean, those games are brutal. Yeah. I will willingly put in the time, streaming or not, man. It's
I will always hold a special place in my heart for Rainbow Six Siege, but I just can't. I watch like top level play and I'm like, this is insane. The amount of wiggle peeking and shooting
and then
through
as a
walls
streamer,
and-
you're expected to be close to the top level or somewhere, right? Somewhere higher up, and that can be also less fun to play.
For certain games, I agree. So like Rainbow Six Siege, definitely. I think the audience for that, when they go to watch a live streamer, a lot of them are there because they want to see the cream of the crop. They want to see the best of the best.
Yeah,
but that doesn't apply to every
no.
game,
I just meant for Rainbow. Like you probably had that additional pressure of having to perform really well, as opposed to having a fun, crazy, kooky match where you could try weird strategies. Like.
Yeah. I had a pro player call me trash, and I was like, "Oh, why am I doing this?"
You're like, okay,
I was like, why am I putting so much time into this when it's like, I'm not the best at the game. Like, obviously not. Like, I wasn't ever like top tier, but I was like, man,
that's the great thing about Battlefield is you can approach it seriously or casually and have a great time. And if you're in the mood to go serious, then it facilitates that. And you're like, oh yeah, we're top squad, and I'm pretty sure we brought our team to victory, and cool, that was great. And then when you want to go casual and you're just having fun moments, fantastic,
Yep. It's very much more open. It's a sandbox.
Yeah.
I love Battlefield because of that.
I know. Gosh, I hope that next game is good, dude. I made my wish list video today, and
nice. I'll have to watch it.
And
then completely disagree with all of your points.
Make sure you disagree with them. Leave an angry comment, especially too.
I'll upvote and downvote it, and then
mention
upvote
how I am directly responsible for ruining the past Battlefield games. And list
you
out
already get those kind of comments.
I get those. It's pretty surprising how many people still think that I've ruined a Battlefield game somehow. And then when they list the specific thing that I'm responsible for, like getting, I don't know, added or balanced or something to Battlefield, I'm just like, what? It's usually something super weird that I'm like, what? That thing? Like,
that's the thing you did.
Yeah, I'm like, I could see you making an argument for something, maybe something that I just yammered on about forever, and then Dice changed, and you could be like, he changed it. Like, yeah, maybe you could make an argument, but
I mean, you did ruin smokes in Battlefield 4, Level Cap, because it was so much fun throwing smoke screens down all over the place and shooting people through them with Iron V.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is like, I think there's a lot of marketing potential and a lot of kind of goodwill to be earned by these big studios by going, we're going to listen to the community, when half the time they're not really. They're just using the community for glorified bug testing on stuff, or just balance changes. Like, this gun feels too powerful, and like, okay, fine. But they're not like looking for like game design ideas, right? That stuff's usually locked in, or they're already solid on it.
Honestly, the community doesn't really know what they want, and if they're good developers, they'll know, they'll be able to see what is working and what isn't, and then they might maybe take some feedback here and there, what they hear, and it might give them ideas, but they're not going to be like, oh yeah, they voted in a poll that we want it should be this way. It's like, no. You don't actually know what you want.
Yeah,
because we don't. As gamers, we don't know.
Well, the feedback is still valuable, because a good dev will say, okay, this person says that we should make vehicles slower because they're too fast right now, and the gameplay and they're dying too much. And then a good dev goes, okay, it's not actually the vehicle issue, it's because of how we're spawning them that creates this sense of chaos.
Right.
But I've been able to deduce that you are not enjoying this specific feeling. You've interpreted the reason for it wrong, but it's still valuable to hear.
It's still valuable feedback. Exactly. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
There was
an author, a comedian, I think, who made I can't remember, HBO show, Assassin. Can't remember his name. Anyways, he said that giving your writing to people and asking their feedback.
Hader.
Yeah. He's like, getting feedback from people is great. Don't listen to what you should change from them. So like, if they said, this isn't working for me, this part isn't, I'm not enjoying this, like, that's great feedback. But when they're like, you should do this instead, no.
Yeah.
No. Take their feedback. It's important, but you need to dial it in yourself.
Yeah, no, it's funny, and I think most game devs get that. And so when people on the consumer side go, oh, these YouTubers changed the video game and did all that stuff, it's like, man, like, yeah, we might have a bigger voice than some people, but also it's us usually expressing what we dislike or is not jiving with us about a game. And they go, and then they interpret that and they make the changes that they think are going to help make things better. And it's usually not what we want or are suggesting or whatever. But yeah, I mean, half of this stuff too, like, I won't name any specific games, but I made some suggestions for like what I would want in certain sequels that I knew were coming in like another year or two. And like, I had devs from the teams reach out and they're like, these are great suggestions. Unfortunately, we're like a year and a half out from launch, so everything's locked in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even in those situations, I think people underestimate the amount of time it takes to develop a new gameplay system and how difficult it is to like retroactively go in and replace an entire system and change it up in a big way. Like it's a big ordeal, and most of these companies are not looking to add a new system or change up a mechanic drastically. They're just like, no, we just want like balance information. Like, should I reduce the range on this gun? That we can do that easily. We're not going to redesign the way that bullets work.
It took 2 years to rework all the maps in Battlefield 2042.
Yeah, that's too long though. I will even weigh in on that with my newfound game dev experience to be like, that's too freaking long for a map redesign. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I know they got a lot of crap to do with maps, but that's their own fault for having to make a map work in 1,000 different variations of itself. It's like, why'd you do that? Nobody's playing all these dumb little game modes anymore anyway. Just focus on 1 or 2 modes, man.
Yep.
Bloating. I tell you, game bloating.
Speaking of bloating, I'm just kidding.
Yeah?
No.
You know what?
I'm good.
Guys can get bloated, all right?
Why wouldn't they be able to?
Well, I mean, because that's like a common complaint among women, you know? They're like, I'm bloated and I feel bloated.
Gotcha.
I'm like, you know what? I can eat unhealthy too, and I can get bloated.
I too can also eat unhealthy. Thank you very much, Margaret.
Yeah. Dude, the rain is coming down so hard outside right now. I can it just sounds like my window is getting hit by a hose or something.
You are. It's me out there right now.
Dang it, Matt. With a green screen and a hose in your hand. It's an elaborate setup you got.
What can I say?
I've got you on camera, sir. It is not you.
Yeah, but you don't see the hose off on the side.
Yeah.
That's so stupid.
Yeah, it's really dumb. Well, now that we're in the extremely dumb phase of our conversation, shall we wrap up the old Potteroonie?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you very much. If you want to support our Patreon, it is linked down below. And we'll see you next week. Otherwise, here's Matt with some very valuable advice.
My valuable advice is stop comparing yourself to people online, especially when it comes to beauty standards, because boy, they got great lighting, they've got filters, they got a pump. Like, don't stop. Do you, baby? It's all you're good. They don't even look like that.
Nope.
They don't even look like that.
Yep. It's like when you see a model in real life without all the crap on, and you're just like, oh, that's an attractive person, but like I'm not like
pretty.
I didn't fall down like, whoa, I didn't do a double take, you know.
Smitten.
Yeah. There's a few people. Who's your celebrity, like, you know, the top of the top?
You, baby.
Oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
The beard. Do it.
It's No, I don't really have anyone that I'm like, oh, damn. Like, yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm not as passionate about that these days anymore. It used to be like Nicki Minaj was my top, you know, like that was
Nicki Minaj. Really?
Yeah, you know, but she never responded to any of my emails, and so I just kind of was backed off, you know. It's like, all right, you don't want to start something up, then
I didn't realize you were sending their emails too.
Yeah, no, I did the like, if you're not interested, then I'm not interested, kind of. Protecting myself,
playing
emotionally.
hard to get. Yeah.
I
got you.
But yeah, no, I don't know if I have a top anymore. Maybe the wide-eyed girl from all the stuff that we're watching.
Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah.
Sure.
She's attractive in sort of an alien kind of way.
She doesn't look like an alien.
She kind of does.
No, she doesn't.
Does she have to shop at a special store to get goggles that fit? Like, it's just weird.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you guys for watching
the podcast.
That's where we're going to end it. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Take care.